Now, remember the Libor scandal, where the banks rigged the bank lending rate? Well, there may be a similar one brewing, as the energy companies are accused of rigging the wholesale price of gas. The gas they buy at that agreed wholesale price is then sold on to businesses and domestic users. Britain's 6 big firms have denied the allegations made by a whistleblower. But both the Financial Services Authority and the energy regulator Ofgem are investigating. Here's our business correspondent, Siobhan Kennedy.
The idea that energy companies are fleecing customers is as old as the hills. But for the first time, a whistleblower has come forward with evidence, he says, that traders are regularly rigging the market and fixing prices. It all started on September the 28th this year, the crucial last day of the gas trading year, when the whistleblower saw this. Gas prices rising gently until 4:30, when suddenly they plunged. The question: did traders deliberately put in a series of low bids to drive down the price for their own benefit, while continuing to charge customers high prices? The whistleblower told me he saw evidence of that when he was collecting prices that day.
I was speaking to a trader at the exact moment when we do the ring around asking for prices, and he said to me, "Hold on, mate, the price has collapsed. I can't give you the right price because it's all over the place," which is pretty unusual, especially because he was saying there was a massive lurch downwards, which isn't what you'd expect on any given day.
Before gas arrives in our homes, it's traded in a vast wholesale market between big banks and the energy companies. They enter into long-term contracts to buy the gas that we then use. So any price fixing here could directly affect us all. If this sounds familiar, it's exactly what happened in the Libor interest rate fixing scandal, where Barclays and other banks manipulated the rates, in some instances, to drive up profits for themselves. It's a scandal ministers don't want repeated with energy bills. Today, they were desperate to show they're on the side of the consumer.
These allegations of market manipulation are being taken very seriously. We will support regulators taking whatever steps necessary to ensure that the full force of the law is applied, if they are true, so that any guilty parties are held to account.
Tough talk, but the problem for the government is it's putting its faith in Ofgem, the energy regulator, who today admitted to Channel 4 News it couldn't effectively regulate the energy market because you don't need a licence to trade there, and there's no requirement to report any details of any trades. In other words, it's a free-for-all.
We know it goes on, there's absolutely nothing we can do. At that point you think, well, hold on, I mean, like, the financial world is dogged by these accusations all over the place. Here we're hearing traders say, not we see it and then we report it, just we see it and we just have to let it go, because it's an unregulated world and no one has it's described as a grey area where Ofgem don't fully have a mandate, the FSA don't fully have a mandate, and so it's a kind of bandit country.
Britain's big 6 energy companies today all denied any involvement in attempts to rig the gas market, stressing they comply with all laws and regulations and saying they welcome transparency in the energy market. But with prices going up again this winter, British consumers say it's transparency in their bills that's desperately lacking.
Well, earlier I spoke to John Hayes, the Energy Minister, and I began by asking him to explain how the very complicated gas market works.
Well, the gas market is complicated, but essentially it involves, rather like any utility market, a trading process. Now, the argument that
who trades it?
Well, what we're trying to get to the bottom of is who has been trading it, and that might be someone at the financial services end of the market, or it might be energy companies. But I don't want to...
Just start at the beginning of the gas chain and explain to us how it works, because I'm not clear, and I'm not sure you are, to be honest.
Well, no, I'm saying that I can't comment on the detail of this allegation.
No, I'm not asking you about the allegation. I'm just asking you about the gas market.
Gas is a primary resource. Gas is, as you know, comes from both the North Sea and is imported. It has a value. That value is then passed down a chain by which it is turned into all kinds of other things, including... Well, you know how energy... No,
I don't. That's why I'm asking you. It's very complicated to understand.
But this is not the point of this.
OK, I'm not sure you really get it.
No, come on. No, you know and I know that we begin with primary fuels, and primary fuels are then turned into all kinds of other things that have value.
Fine.
Those things have value, and they are used by consumers.
Do you think we, the consumers, are being ripped off?
I think it would be absolutely wrong if, as a result of this investigation, we discover that consumers are paying too much for their bills, and I think that's would be a cause of outrage.
You called yourself the People's Minister recently, didn't you?
I am the People's Minister.
So what are you going to do about it?
Well, let me tell you this: if there has been improper practice in this regard, the bleats of those whose greed has led them to act improperly will be as nothing in my eyes compared with the cries of those who face higher energy bills. That's why I'm the People's Minister, and that's why we're the People's Government.
Well, that's fighting talk. Now, of course, you're finalising the energy bill at the moment. Have you found a way to deliver on David Cameron's promise that energy companies will be forced to give the lowest tariff to their customers?
We're looking closely at tariffs. I'm absolutely committed to do what the Prime Minister wants, which is to ensure...
So you are going to do that in the bill, are you? Force the energy companies?
The bill will put into place the Prime Minister's commitment. Now, there's many ways we could do that, and it's important that's shaped by consumer groups, by charitable organisations, actually, and we listen to the sector itself to make sure this is deliverable. But make no mistake about it, we will address the issue of tariffs and we'll use the energy bill to do so.
Addressing the issue of tariffs is one thing. Are you going to force the energy companies, as David Cameron promised in the House, to put people on the lowest tariff?
There is no doubt about what I'm saying. The energy...
There is? Do you stand by David Cameron's quote or not?
No. I stand by it wholly. We will use the energy bill, which is a legislative vehicle, and legislation is, in your terms, force, a legislative vehicle to address the issue of tariffs. We've been absolutely clear about that.
So energy companies will be forced to put me on the lowest tariff. That's what you're promising as the result of this bill.
No.
Well, that's what David Cameron said.
What we're saying is that the bill will be used to address the issue of tariffs.
Well, that's not what David Cameron said. He didn't say the bill will be used to address the issue of tariffs. He said the energy companies will be made to put people on the lowest tariff.
Let me tell you what I said in the House. What I said in the House is the energy bill will be used to ensure people get the best deal. Now, you know, because you understand the issue of tariffs.
Not what the Prime Minister said.
You understand the issue of tariffs, I'm sure. That that's about ensuring that tariffs work in the interests of consumers.
Just one other matter which also relates to this whole question of the energy market. You recently had a disagreement with Ed Davey, the Energy Secretary, over onshore wind farms. You said enough is enough, and he said no, that's wrong. Now, for investors who are looking to invest in onshore wind farms in this country, that's rather confusing. Are you saying to them, enough is enough, or we're open for business?
The simple fact of the matter is that in respect of onshore wind, with what's built, with what's consented, and with a small proportion of what's in the planning system, we will have reached our ambitions in respect to the renewables target.
So you won't want any more?
End of story, really.
End of story? So no more wind farms after you've built everything that's currently in the planning system?
Well, the Prime Minister is very clear about that. The Prime Minister said...
Well, no one's going to invest in that industry now, are they?
The Prime Minister in the House of Commons said that when we've reached our targets, I think he invited all parties to think about where we went next.
You just said end of story. Does that mean no more wind farms after this lot are built?
In respect of the targets that we have for renewables, when we take into account what's built, what's consented, what's in the planning system now, we will certainly have achieved, it'll be job done. Now, clearly, we then have to look where we go next, and that's what the Prime Minister said.
Well, job done means you don't need any more.
Well, what the Prime Minister said, we then have to look where we go next, and that's what I'm saying too.
John Hayes, well, it's not absolutely clear that Ed Davey, the Energy Secretary, would say exactly the same thing. But after that interview, Channel 4 News spoke to the Department for Climate Change press office, who say their policy is to have targets in the future for renewable energy, but there has been no decision on what proportion of that energy will come from different sources.
Well,